Hi, my name's Phil, and in this LabourVision episode, where we look at Labour policies as they currently stand, I'm going to be discussing dealing with wayward private water companies. Water companies have been making huge profits, raising huge debts, have not carried out the modernisation of infrastructure that was promised to us decades ago, and are now dumping untreated sewage into our waterways with reckless abandon. So what are Labour saying that they are going to do about it? Well, before we go over Labour's policies, let's take a look at the current situation right now. First, the water companies blame raw sewage dumping on a crumbling Victorian infrastructure. But when they were privatised many years ago, we were promised that they would modernise that infrastructure. Given that water companies have racked up huge debts, we should ask what all that borrowing was for if they didn't actually invest in a modern infrastructure, because it's looking very much like they borrowed in order to pay out huge dividends. Now, in a private company, normally that would be illegal. Why hasn't it been deemed illegal for water companies? The Conservatives have said that the infrastructure will now need modernising. Oh, will it? But that consumers will have to pay extra for it. Oh, will we? Second, whenever water companies are fined for failing to meet the requirements of their service, they just increase the prices and effectively pass on the cost of the fine to the consumer. It's like considered an expense. This means that water company executives act with impunity. The fine is not a deterrent to them because it's like, we'll just jack up the prices. What are Labour proposing in order to make executives face up to their responsibilities to society, not just their shareholders? Third, ever since we left the single market, the amount of untreated sewage being dumped in our waterways has hugely increased. And the government have done nothing to curtail it. And it's not just a natural beauty issue either. People are falling ill. We recently hosted an international triathlon competition where dozens of competitors became very ill after the swimming event. Now, the news has been reporting on a regular basis of other people becoming ill. Now we've got the news that a young woman is fighting for her life after swimming in a river she did not know was polluted. There is a serious public health issue here. Serious. People could die. The only action the government have taken is to remove the requirement for house builders to deal with water pollution. This is not helping. So what are Labour proposing? Well, there are several policies designed to not only cut down on untreated sewage dumping, but to ensure that executives see it in their personal interest to drive these changes themselves. The first is to make sure that Ofwat, which is the ombudsman in charge of them, are empowered to keep consumer bills down and that water companies pay for their failures, not the public. That's their wording. That means they pay their own fines from profits. They pay for repairs from profits. They pay for everything that needs paying from profits before dividends are considered. They will not be allowed to simply raise the price to meet the costs of not doing their job. Second, to set mandatory targets to halve water leaks and make sure there are automatically fines for sewage discharges. So water companies will be financially motivated to fix leaks quickly, but also to maintain pipes properly to reduce the risks of leaks in the first place. If they want any profits left, that is. Also on sewage dumping, the idea is that every time it happens, you are to be fined. So if it has to happen, if it's like an emergency situation, you'll take the hit, but you're not going to do it habitually because then you'll have no money left, right? You know, they'll have to pay the fines, remember, out of their profits. They cannot just raise the prices to meet those costs. It will be costing them money to dump sewage, which means they'd better be really sure they absolutely have to. Because at the moment, the situation is they're dumping untreated sewage because that is saving them money. That's why they're dumping so much at the moment. It's saving them money and the government are allowing it. Labour are going to hit them where it hurts, their balance sheet. But there's another sting in the tail as well from Labour. They're going to strike off company directors who keep ignoring their responsibilities. So a direct threat to their livelihoods. It means that if they keep breaching the rules, they won't just be able to move to another company in the UK. If they want to ply their trade as an executive, as a company director, it will have to be in another country. I've said in the past that I would like to see criminal charges for some of the really bad behaviour. You know, there are business practices in water companies which, if conducted in a genuinely independent private business, would result in prison time. And although Labour have not explicitly stated they have a policy of doing this, they have said they will ensure that illegal activity is punished. So we may not just see fines for general failures, but we may see the idea of holding executives to the same legal standards as would exist in other types of business. The problem right now is that executives are focused on their bonuses, and their bonuses are linked to performance targets related entirely to profits and dividends. Labour are linking them both directly and indirectly to the quality of the service. Labour have a policy of linking dividends with performance metrics, which means that if certain standards of service are not met, the dividends payable, don't matter what your profits are, the dividends payable will be limited. Dividends will not be solely linked to profits anymore. Some have asked if measures like this will make running a private water company much less attractive. Yeah, maybe. I personally have no problem with the private business model collapsing and the government taking them into public hands if so. Another policy is to make sure that there is mandatory monitoring of water quality. Now, this was massively scaled back by Liz Truss as Environment Secretary under David Cameron. Labour are not only going to fine water companies automatically for untreated sewage discharges, but, how do you know they're dumping untreated sewage if no one's monitoring it? So they're also going to make sure that monitoring has to be in place. And if there's no monitoring in place, you're going to get fined for that instead. So the difference this will make to the water industry will be absolutely huge. Prices will be kept down for consumers, so the venture will no longer be a license to print money. Executives will be forced to focus on the quality of their service. Dividends will depend on it, which tends to link to their bonuses. In addition, they will face harsh penalties for negligence. Could barely be more different to the approach of the Conservatives. So there we are. If you found the video useful, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe to the channel for more of these videos every Sunday. And if you'd like me to cover specific Labour policies on a particular issue sooner rather than later, put it in the comments below with any specific questions you may have. Thanks for listening, and until next time, I'll see you later.